Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the Book Brood. Today, I'm going to be bringing you something a little different, a new segment that I'm hoping is going to be a regular thing. But this is going to be about sort of a writing journal, a live journal, blog, vlog, whatever you want to call it. More a diary, I guess, writing diary for me. And I'm going to try and bring it to you weekly to just give some content and just to try and help keep myself a little bit accountable. But we'll see how that goes. So, writing, I do some what I call hobby writing. I think a lot of us who are readers definitely have that fantasy of writing that book of our own because I know we're all dreamers and we have plenty of ideas that we would like to get on paper. But as we all know, it's very difficult to make that transition to get the idea to something that's fleshed out and on the computer or on paper. How I initially took the dive to writing, I started, a couple things here and there, really since I was in college, long time ago. And that was more like sci-fi ideas, things like that I had for books, movies, things like that. And I would only ever get like a few pages in. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with getting that far. But more recently, in the last few years, this is it's more recently in the last few years, I went through a phase where I was looking on the internet for just, freely posted erotic stories, written by, whoever, just random internet people. And I got frustrated that, there were some fine ones out there, but I got frustrated that so many of them didn't give you much character attachment, that they just kind of jump into the sexiness and everything. And I ended up getting frustrated with that and being like, what is this? Why isn't anyone developing these characters and, letting us get to know them before it gets into the more intimate details? So I started, and I think this was good practice, that I started to write my own, that, with the intention that maybe I'd post them on just the internets, just shotgun them out there. And that, I think, was not intimidating. That didn't feel like I was trying to write the next best novel, something like that. That it was just going to be a stupid internet thing for stupid internet people like myself that were out there just looking for some trash. And so I started a few projects like that. Some of them got pretty long. I actually, so the first few I started maybe got to like 40 pages, something like that. And then I lost steam on them. And then there were a couple that I did that got past the 100-page mark. But again, just lost steam on them. And just, my interest in general just dropped. But then, more recently, I discovered that there's actually this whole book genre that was exactly what I was looking for when I was looking for quality stories like that. It's called romance, that actually does focus on characters and lets you get to know them and everything. And so I obviously took a deep dive into reading a lot of romance. I'm still in that deep dive. And I eventually started writing my own. So I, of course, have many irons in the fire, but this February of 2020, I actually completed my first full manuscript. It's just the first draft of a novel that I wrote. And it rounded out at about just under 160,000 words. And so that's about 430 pages and Times New Roman, single-spaced. But, not so much about the length, but just I got something finished. What I'm going to do with that, I don't know, because honestly, I don't know a lot of people in my real life that read romance. So getting beta readers it's been a struggle. I've sent it out to like a couple of my friends, but they're just, and they're dudes. So They just kind of said they got a few pages in and laughed at me and, you know, made fun of me. And it's all good fun, you know. And I don't blame them for that. It's fine, you know. They weren't going to give me a very constructive criticism anyway on it because it's not a genre that they read. And Heidi, again, just can't take romance sometimes. She's barely pushing through on the romance challenge we're doing. So she's struggled with it. But what I did is I found a website called Romance Refined, and it's run by this lady named Rachel, and I'll leave her Twitter and everything below. But she's an editor, and she runs a matching service for like beta readers and editors and things like that. And so you know, you can actually like pay to have someone actually thoroughly beta read your stuff, and it's $1 for every 1,000 words. So that's not too bad. So I hired one beta reader. And so at about the end of May, I will get a really thorough feedback on, you know, what that one person thinks needs to happen with my story if they think it's to move forward to like a publishing point, which I don't know if I'm going to do something like that. I totally would love to, but, you know, my fear is that they're going to come back and they're like, oh, this was shit. Like, what are you even doing? This was a waste of my time. You know, all the self-conscious things that I could say about that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. After I sent that out, I really kind of lost steam on a lot of my other projects. I've got an urban fantasy one that I'm working on that's only a few chapters. I've only done a few chapters so far. I have the sequel to the one that I finished. I have that. I'm working on outlining that one. The first one that I wrote, I actually discovery wrote it. I just started and I wrote it in linear order from beginning to end. So I know that's not the professionally suggested way to write books, but it's what worked for me. So I'm trying to do a little more traditional structure in writing this next one. I haven't quite gotten to actually writing the chapters of that though. So you know, and then let's see. And then another project I have going, I have a portal story of some military soldiers that end up getting thrown into another world where there's into a fantasy world where it's sword and sorcery and strange creatures and things like that. So yeah, I haven't written much recently on my current projects. I am planning to try and get back to that, get back into a little more of a routine to doing that, because going from when I was wrapping up that one project that I finished or completed the manuscript on, I was going crazy. Like, I was spending so much time putting off work from my day job, and I would, like, to the point that the joints in my fingers were hurting because I was typing so much. And yeah, I was typing so much, and Heidi would see me and go, "Hey, I haven't seen you all day. What are you doing?" And I'm just like, I'm almost there. I'm almost done. So going from like 100 miles an hour to 0 has been a little jarring. It's kind of weighed on my self-confidence and my ability to keep going with things like this. But at the same time, I'm not trying to beat myself up too much. I'm trying to just keep in mind that I do my best work when I'm inspired to do it. And though a routine is great, I think it's fine. I'm allowing myself to take this break for a little bit before I try and get back into anything. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm going to do another one of these videos next week and try and post these weekly. But go ahead and let me know about your own writing projects, because I know so many of us have them. Tell me down in the comments about it. And yeah, I'll check in later, everyone.